When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. I hadn't done much of the healing yet. So at that time, we were just calling the class Advanced Past Life Regression. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. Because that's really what it is. It's quantum. It's so big and so important. So we called it QHHT because it's way beyond past life regression. And that's where the name is stuck now. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002. That's 12 years. It's always unique for the client. But it happens to me just about every day in my office, so it'll be very hard for me to pick out a certain one. Because they leave, and I forget all about the session as soon as they're gone. Then I go on to the next client. But I have seen human bodies be put back together, totally. And I've seen where they were going to have surgery and they wouldn't have to have surgery. They come in with back problems to where they're going to do back surgery on them. And during the session, you can hear the bones popping and cracking. And I asked them, the SC, what are you doing? We're just realigning the vertebrae and putting it back into place. There's no pain associated with anything they do. It's all done with energy, the white light energy, like electrical currents. But they said they're putting it together, and the client can hear this on the recording later, the popping and the cracking. I've had people with, what do you call it, when the backbones are bent, cirrhosis. I've had the backs be completely straightened out. I've had things that are absolutely impossible be done. One woman came to me and she was dying. She was on the hospice list. And she came in dragging in, using a walker, and her friend was with her. She's carrying an oxygen bottle hooked up to the oxygen. And she looked terrible. We had the sessions and her lungs were completely destroyed. The lower lobes of the lungs had been completely deflated. And the others were so full of junk that the doctors couldn't do anything. So and she brought one of these big oxygen tanks with you, had a long cord with it also. So she brought that and put it in another room and hooked herself up to the long tube. Well, when we had the session, the SC began to work on her. It went all the way through the lungs, and it reinflated the lower lungs, the lower lobes of the lungs. And it cleaned out all of the junk out of the other parts of the lungs. And it does this very quickly. It doesn't take it very long to do it at all. And while we were doing all of that, the power in the building went out. Of course, I wasn't so worried about it because it's recorded now in the little digital recording. But the power went out. Well, the oxygen machine that was in the other room began making this screeching, horrible noise because the power had been cut off. And so I asked them, what's that? They said, oh, it's that oxygen machine. Don't turn it off. She doesn't need it anyway. So I turned it off, and she didn't have any more oxygen the whole rest of the time she was there. But by the time we were finished, it was like a miracle. She didn't even look like the same person. Her friend came to get her, and she walked out of there with no problem whatsoever. And when she went back to the doctor, she told him, I want you to x-ray my lungs again and see what they look like. Especially focus on the lower lobes. He x-rayed and he said, well, there's nothing wrong with your lungs. But this is one of the success stories I like because the woman is telling everyone that she can meet about the story. Because this happened 2 months later, we had our transformation conference. She came to the transformation conference, and she was running all up and down the halls and back and forth between the hotel and the auditorium, laughing and having such a wonderful time. And you wouldn't even realize it was the same person. And she ended up taking the classes, both of them, and she tells everyone that she can meet about the wonderful results that the doctors have no explanation for. But one thing I liked, she said, was when she got home, we got a card from one of her daughters, and they said, thank you for giving us our mother back. And we just saw her again a few months ago at the Transformation Conference here, and they gave me a card. She has a brand new grandson. And they said she would never have been alive to see this if it hadn't been for the work you did. So that to me is the greatest satisfaction, to see these people's whole lives completely reinvented. And now she's helping everyone with QHHT too. This is where I get my happiness and satisfaction from teaching this, discovering it and teaching it, and wanting the world to know how powerful your mind is. Well, as part of this technique, the very first thing that you do is take the client into a past life, because a lot of the answers will be found there, because some of the answers in this life go back to other lives, whether they're illness, their phobias, or whatever. So the past life, though, is the beginning. It's the tip of the iceberg, because we go way beyond that. But going into a past life is very simple, very easy. And you do it with the hypnosis. But I never know where the person is going to go. That's the fun of this, because it's always out of the blue. We never know the connection. But they will always go to the most appropriate time and place to explain what's happening in their life right now. And they find their answers that way. But the past life is just the very, very beginning. Then we go to this great power that I work with. That's where all of the healing and all of the answers and all of the very important work comes from. But the past life is easy. You just go into a trance and go back into the past to find out the most appropriate life for you to look at. Well, several times my clients ask, what is it going to feel like to go into trance and go into a past life? And I said, it's just like taking a nap. Because a lot of times they're nervous, they're worried about it. And I said, doesn't bother you to take a nap, does it? It's so easy and so simple. It's just like taking a nap. And they will be seeing the pictures in the past life. So I tell them, you have the easy part. You have to just lay there and look at the pretty pictures and tell me what you're seeing. I have the hard part. I've got to come up with the questions to find the answers and how it all relates. But well, the hypnosis part is so simple and easy. See, what a lot of people don't understand is that everyone is hypnotized most of the day. It's impossible for anybody to stay wide awake at all. It's a natural, safe, normal part of the human being. And all we do is take that normal state and use it for therapy. But, I've been doing this work for 45 years. And over that time, I invented my own technique. Because 45 years ago, nobody was doing anything like this. There were no books out. There was nothing to show you how to do anything. So I had to invent my own technique on how to do this. And gradually, over that time, I began to find out new things that came in that nobody else had ever discovered. So as it went along, eventually I had this other force, I guess you would say, that started coming in to the sessions. Now I say it's the greatest force in the universe. There's nothing greater than it. It has absolute power. It can answer any question anybody wants. It can also have instant healing of anything immediately, that quickly. So this is the part that I work with. And I didn't know what to call it. I began calling it the subconscious, because I didn't have a name for it. And they said, "We don't care what you call us, we don't have a name anyway. We'll work with you." But some people say we are communicating with the higher self, the oversoul, the higher consciousness. Some people call it the universal consciousness. But all of those names mean something big and huge. And that's what we found a way to communicate with that. So I call it the subconscious. My students began calling it the SC because it has the answers to everything. It has absolute power. And it is also total love. It's a joy to work with because I've seen the miracles it can do. It enters into the person and does all the healing instantly. It's beautiful and wonderful to watch. And that's the energy that I'm working in constantly. It's beautiful and very, very effective. This is not exactly the same thing because there's no healing involved. I've been a UFO investigator for 27 years, and I have found the answers to any question anybody would want to know about UFOs. And I've written 4 books on the subject. And we were able to contact ETs through the normal method of hypnosis, the first part with the past life regressions, and able to get that. And many times during the session, when they go back to a past life, they go back to one where they were an alien on a spaceship or on another planet. You never know where they're going to end up. But whatever comes out is what they're supposed to know. But in my early days with Keepers of the Garden and those books, I was focusing on one story. So we had many sessions with the same person to get all of the parts of the story, which is hypnosis. The way I did it, well, up until about 20 years ago when I discovered this other way of working with the SC. I still work in a little different way than all the other hypnotists out there.